Welcome to Space Engineers. I'm Despair. Today we're going to work on a drill ship. Drill ships are not about aesthetics. It's a utility ship, so all that really matters is that it works. I have one particular thing I like about my drill ships, and that is I put large engines in the back and with a one block spacer, and it kind of keeps them closer instead of having those big, large atmospheric engines out to the side. So we're going to start off with a connector so that we can dock this thing and unload the cargo. And we're just going to mount the cockpit right on top of it. The drills hold a pretty good inventory. Of course, like everything else, depends what kind of settings you're using. If, for you, the drills aren't going to hold enough, then you want to mount a cargo container right here behind the cockpit. But I tend to drill what I need and then come back. So for the time being, we're just going to mount 2 batteries here. Now I'm playing in creative, so these are just going to charge automatically. That's not going to happen when in survival. In survival, you're going to need to dock this to your station. So it's important that you have solar panels and a lot of connectors. So if you look here, I have these docking stations here. They're just connectors. And on the other side where this beam is, there's some more. Okay, so back to our build. Our drill ship we want to keep relatively simple. This is going to be a huge investment, but what we're going to do is put 4 drill heads on this. And the reason why, that will drill wide enough to fit the entire ship down without having to back up and re-drill. And the other thing is, if you have tool shake on, this is an important part. You want to put one up here, one down here, and then you want to invert this and put them catty corner, like so. So there's my drills and my cockpit. The next part is, when you're mining, you need some lights. So we'll put a light here, and one's kind of sideways. Sometimes they help and sometimes they don't. Right now I think DirectX 11 is still a little funny. That's okay. It beats having nothing. Now I tend to leave this port to the connector open so I can access it, because you can't access conveyors, although you can in the drills. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and throw in a vent, because if you don't do it now, you're going to forget it. And I'm going to go ahead, jump in the cockpit, go to the vent, and turn it on to depressurize. And I'm going to go ahead and turn the lights off. There. So now my cockpit has air, my lights are off so I can see what I'm doing. So here's what I'm talking about with the engines. In the back, we're going to throw our gyroscope in here, somewhere where it's less likely to be damaged. These big engines go like this, with one little spacer. See? And the reason why is if we get behind the ship and look, that makes the ship as wide as the drills. So you don't want 3 or 5 and then these sitting way out here in a drill ship, because then you can only dig the drill heads in and then you have to stop. This ship can bore down into the rock and the rest of the ship will just slide in behind it. So 2 batteries gives me a lot of time. And like I said, you could make this longer and put a cargo container there too. This connector will hold some of the mineral, but drills do pretty good, and you've got 4 of them. As you fill up on ore, this thing is going to drive worse and worse the whole time. Now this can kind of depend on your particular driving habits. If you like to dig straight down, you're going to need more. These 3 engines are not going to lift this whole thing out of a hole if you're completely straight down. So you'll need more. Now, a lot of people say these engines don't damage blocks. I'm getting kind of mixed results sometimes. Sometimes I've had whole drill ships just explode when I let off the throttle and they do their dampening. So I don't really quite trust them. So I treat them more like regular engines. Although technically these 3 are blowing on these drills if you look. They don't seem to damage them at that distance. So I'm going to go ahead and run 2 beams here. And then run my engines in the back. And then for my side thrust, now again, this is not much side thrust. If you're not really a great pilot, you're going to need more, which is still easy to do. You can run another beam, you can run 3. I tend to like less, but we'll go ahead and put 3. So we've only got 4 going forward. This thing is not going to accelerate really quickly, but it could really save you when you're drilling. The drill heads tend to be fragile and they'll break. So with only 4 of these small thrusters pushing forward, get a little less braking. And then I'm going to go ahead and run a beam from here to this battery, just because when you break stuff, you don't want all this falling off. If I break this bottom one off, basically you can lose all 4 of your drill heads. So if I put a beam here, if I do bump this bottom one, then at least I can keep these, get back to base, and try to do some repairs. So I have everything I need. I've got a gyroscope, I've got a vent. 2 things that a lot of people miss. But with that only 1 gyroscope, once this is loaded down, it's going to be a little bare. So I'm going to go ahead and throw an extra gyroscope in here. And I'm going to take this block off. This was just used to place the connector. So this is it. It's a pretty working ship. I'm going to take off and delete this landing gear because we are going to dock this at a connector. Now this ship is not very tall, so it's not too hard to build in survival or you can't fly. Right now I can fly. So you have to either build a little scaffolding next to it, which you don't even need to weld them up. You can just put a ramp and a block. Don't even weld them, leave them as scaffolding. That way if you want to remove them, they just take right back out. And it allows you to climb on top and build this. It's not bad. Okay, so let's see what we're talking about. So 2 batteries, 2 gyroscopes, 2 large engines, and this thing flies pretty good. If I hit G and bring up the menu here, you can add these tools from here, but then you have to hold the mouse button. So instead, go here, hit Shift and highlight all 4 of them, and make these into a group. And then make the batteries into a group. And go to G. And I do this on all my ships. They're kind of set up the same, so I have a lot of consistency. My first thing on the bar at 9 is always recharging batteries. If you hit recharge, it basically turns the ship off and recharges the batteries while connected to a station. Then I find the connector and I put switch lock. Switch lock turns the lock on and off that dumps all the materials you mined into the refinery. And then your ship will still stay connected, so toggle on and off. So these are my connector, and I can demonstrate this real quick. From my drill to 2, I'm going to add a on and off switch. And what that does is just turns on all 4 drills. And then I don't have to worry about holding the mouse down, I can just drive. So we'll turn those off. So here's what I'm talking about. I can take this ship, bring it up to my connector, so now I'm docked, but I'm not locked in. If I hit 8, now that locks it in place. So that would dump all the ore out of the drills into the refinery. Then when I'm ready to go mining, I hit 8 to unlock that, and then I hit 7, which turns off the connector. So I'm free to fly away. And I just go ahead and turn 7 back on. That way when I'm ready to come back to dock, it docks automatically. So over here, there's some minerals. So we'll turn on our drill heads. And when you first start mining, you really have to be careful. The bottom 2 drill heads will take all the pressure, and they tend to break. Once you have pressure on all 4 drill heads, it's a lot better. And drilling now is in a pulse. If you watch, I drill, and drill again. So you want to wait for it to drill, and then move forward. The other thing is, I like to drill more into hillsides. It's just easier. And I think sometimes the deposits seem to be a little bigger than on flat ground like this. So mining in places like this, it takes a while to get down to the mineral. But once you get there, the ship will do a fantastic job. Thanks for watching.